What's up, folks? This is Justin, and you are listening to the Welcome to Your Doom show. Man, it's nice to say that intro again. This is episode number 57. Atul and I are talking about The Mandalorian, the Disney Plus series that continues from where episode 6 left off in the original trilogy of Star Wars, but before the new trilogy in episode 7. It's all very confusing. If you've heard of The Mandalorian, you know what it is. And if you haven't, I feel like Disney's so prevalent these days that you probably know what it is in any case. Most people are talking about it. It's pretty popular. I'm going to address the elephant in the room real quick. We talk about it a little bit in the episode, but we took a good few months off, almost a year. Nothing COVID related. Atul and I, very healthy and strong and all of that jazz. It's just life in general. I have a new daughter. Well, she's not new now. She's like a year old almost. And Atul's been super busy as well on their end. So it's just been kind of crazy in 2020 for us. Not COVID related, which I guess we're thankful for. But we're back. We're going to be trying to put out episodes at a more regular cadence. We'll be putting them out on Mondays as we did before. And I think that's all the precursor crap that I really wanted to mention. So I think we're good to go. Let's do this. Oh, this is going to be good. Hold on. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to your doom.
All right. Hello, everyone. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, dude. It is.
Yeah.
So before we started, I got super excited even just plugging in the mic for this intent, where I'm not wearing beards and mustaches and a red suit.
Mustaches.
Oh, buddy. It's good.
That's right.
Welcome,
that is
everybody.
right.
Welcome back. We haven't done this since April of 2020. That strange year of past. This is the Welcome to Your Doom show. I'm Justin.
My name is Atul Kachru. Yeah, this is the rise of, the return of, and the revenge of the Welcome to Your Doom show. We're back in all the ways you that are absolutely possible. I'm excited to get back into this because I feel like that was an outlet.
It was.
Like, the show was like an outlet for conversation, and especially during like the pandemic, which is still going on now. It's something that I feel like I lost because we don't, since we hadn't done it, I'm not talking to other people about this stuff.
Yeah.
Like in this level of detail.
Right.
It happens very rarely. So I'm excited to get back into this and try and make it a little more regular. And, we're both working from home now. Still working from home. I guess in April when we recorded last, we were working from home back then too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that this is a new era for the show. And I've got this, mic set up that I think works. So yeah, I'm excited to get back into it. There's been a lot going on since then.
Yeah. Last episode that came out was, like I said, April, so we'd already talked about the fact that I have a daughter now, but there's been all kinds of things that have been changing.
Correct.
Like, I changed jobs at the end of last year, which is cool.
Yeah.
Previous job was very difficult in a sense of being able to manage my time. I don't know how many people, deal with people in multiple time zones, but the job I was at, I was dealing with people. I was the only one based in Eastern time, and then I was dealing with folks that are in Europe that were, I think, 6 hours ahead of my time zone. And then I also had people in LA that I was dealing with that were 3 hours behind me. So
right.
and the thing is I wasn't really managing them per se, but I was, kind of coordinating around the dev teams that are, off in another continent, really. And it was exhausting, and it was just very demanding. That's the thing that kind of just, really, for me at least, really halted the podcast or being able to do the podcast regularly. It was just that.
Yeah.
Like, the pandemic wasn't really a huge factor for me. It was just the fact that, like, after 10 hours of work in a day, it's just like, nah, I can't do it. But
no, that makes complete sense. I think there was a period in there where I think the motivation kind of took a hit. I mean, I feel like everybody who's at home just trying to make some sense of like home life now, kind of being there and being at home and all the time. That for me was, obviously, of course, there's work, but there's also kind of that motivation. But you kind of have to. I feel like it just had to get over that hump and get back into the groove of things, set all this stuff up, and just dive back in. And now that I've got it set up and kind of we're doing this again, I feel the energy, kind of coming back into it. So I'm excited.
Speaking of energy,
yeah.
What a nice sound that was.
I think we should talk about the Mandalorian a little bit, because I think that's what we wanted. This is the title. This is a title match, because I don't know if people know this. I think some people know this, but we are not on the same page on the Mandalorian. We are on different pages. We're in different books, I think.
I'd like to say I'm in the right book and you're in the wrong book, but that's just my feelings, and probably a lot of others. I don't think you're gonna have a lot of friends on this one. We were
no, I don't think so.
The call from yesterday. So we were on.
Sure.
We did a birthday thing. There was a little bit of lag there, but we were on a birthday call for your birthday, which just passed. Happy 80th birthday, by the way. And we were on the phone. We were on a call with a bunch of the boys, and we were watching a movie. And then after, we were just shooting the shit. And Mandalorian came back up, and everybody was singing praises of it, just praises. And I was just sitting back, smiling, and just watching you be angry, and it was wonderful. Because I was thinking that this Mandalorian conversation would sort of just drift away and we'd talk about something else. I would have brought it back.
I just didn't go away.
I would have been like, guys, let's talk a little bit more about that.
It didn't go away, yeah. So I had to voice my. I had to voice my dislike for the series, and I just got I got ripped a new one. So why not take that conversation to the internet and tell millions of people why I dislike this? But yeah, let's jump into it. You good to go?
Let's do it.
All right. I hope you all like your eggs raw and wriggling. This is the Mandalorian.
That was cute.
So
people were up in arms about that, eh?
Yeah, I know. Oh yeah. And we'll talk about that, because that was a weird choice. It's a weird choice they made.
I agree.
In general, I do need to start off with something here, so I don't get like rotten vegetables thrown at me like right from the outset. So you're just gonna sit there. You're gonna shut the fuck up for just like maybe 3.5 minutes. All right. Let me set the scene a little bit here. Let's set the ambiance, and then we'll jump into this review. But so in general, I am like a massive Star Wars fan. I don't think that's really clear. Like when we talk about things, we don't talk a lot about Star Wars, to be honest. Like unless we're reviewing Star Wars material, we don't really talk a lot about Star Wars.
I was going to say, we've had like 4 hours of podcast content with Star Wars alone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess what I mean to say is, unless we're talking about a Star Wars thing, we're not really talking about Star Wars all that much. And even in like day-to-day conversation, Star Wars is just not something that really comes up when it comes to like nerdy conversation. So I think it might be unclear. I am a huge Star Wars fan. When I was growing up, we have all the toys from the 80s. I have a full size like AT-AT Walker and like the Millennium Falcon full size, like all that stuff. I'm massive. My brother is. My entire family is basically like they're all massive Star Wars fans, and obviously watched all the movies. Have like 6 different versions of them on VHS, and then DVD, and then Blu-ray, and all of that crazy stuff. Grew up on it. In particular, I'm a huge fan of Boba Fett. That's the other thing that I think that a lot of someone wouldn't know from listening to the podcast. Or even my wife didn't know, like, that I was a huge fan of Boba Fett, because I love the armor. I love the way Boba Fett looked. When I first saw, like, Empire and Return of the Jedi, Boba Fett was something I zeroed in on because of just how fucking cool he looked. Mm-hmm. I was like, purely visual aesthetic, I was like, man, Boba Fett's just the shit. Yeah. He looks amazing. And I have sketchbooks filled with like Boba Fett drawings. I draw the helmet all the time, with the visor and the thing coming down. I was just like, absolutely, like the cape, the rocket pack, the whole nine. And I'd always go to the comics too, because the Dark Horse comics at the time, they were releasing them because I always thought Boba Fett just went out like a real goofball. You know,
Yeah.
I was like, here's like Boba Fett, and you set him up in Empire, and then here comes Return of the Jedi, and he kind of gets killed in this Looney Tunes way. And I was always like, I don't buy it. And then I'd read the comic books, and I'm like, yeah, this is more like Boba Fett. You know, he's a real badass in these Dark Horse stories, which whether they're canon or not didn't really matter to me, because I was like, I just love drawing him too, right? So yeah, I was always like, he went out like a bit of a cartoon. Boba Fett, where?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So when sorry, I've lost my way here. Yeah. So when The Force Awakens came out, I watched it, and I sort of like came to terms with the fact that Star Wars wasn't really interested in doing anything new or unique. Like The Force Awakens was kind of like it seemed like a bit of a retread to me. But then the Last Jedi came out, and I was kind of like, okay, while the movie has a ton of issues, and we did an entire podcast, a really long one on this, it has a ton of issues. Long story short, for me, I'm like, yeah, it's a ton of issues. I think mechanically some of this stuff doesn't really work. Some of the character work is odd. But in general, I was like, it surprised me with a setup where, the movie was saying that, hey, we're not really beholden to what's happened in the past. And they were very interested in starting something new. That's how I felt about, the Last Jedi. And I was like, oh, there's this whole new world of things that we can do in the Star Wars universe. And I was excited to see, okay, the next movie. What's the next movie going to be like with all these new things? And then there's The Rise of Skywalker.
Hey, buddy, guess what? We're going back to the old stuff.
Yeah, and then The Rise of Skywalker.
Falling off my face. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Then The Rise of Skywalker comes out, of course, and we've done a podcast on that. And if you want to hear the deeper sort of thoughts we have on those, visit those two podcasts. They're funny and they are a more nuanced version of what I'm saying right now. But basically, Rise of Skywalker comes out, and it's this really grotesque, groveling apology for the last movie. That's what it felt like. It just felt like J.J. Abrams on his hands and knees with his on his knees with his hands together. Like, why is J.J. Abrams like on the ground? He's
crawls in.
He's like,
please watch this movie. I'm sorry.
Sorry, not his hands.
Stop crawling around, JJ. We'll give it a shot. Palpatine. Oh, fuck. Get back on your hands and knees. Get out of here. Crawl out, JJ.
Yeah, and exactly. So it's like, it was a turning point for me. I think in my mind, I didn't realize it was actually happening, but like subconsciously, yeah. I think I drew a line there where I'm like, me and Star Wars are kind of taking a break. Yeah, after this movie, I think it really solidified that even when they tried something new, they were too afraid to follow through with it and actually make something out of it. They immediately snapped back to this more comfortable, more familiar thing, erasing all of the unique stuff from the previous movie. I didn't realize it at the time, but internally, I was like, after watching it, I was, we would take a long break with Star Wars. And that's kind of where things left off. And like, along comes The Mandalorian. Basically, obviously there were a couple of movies in between there, but that was kind of my mindset after The Rise of Skywalker. I'm like, hey, you know what? You guys don't want to try anything new. I'm cool. I'm all Star Wars'd out. And then The Mandalorian comes, and you start seeing promos for The Mandalorian posters and stuff, and you see like this sort of Western-focused genre change for like a Western science fiction samurai thing going on and I'm like, oh, this is all very exciting, and obviously I was interested in checking it out. So that's kind of setting the stage. I'm a Star Wars fan, I'm a massive Boba Fett fan. I felt a little tired after The Rise of Skywalker because I was very sort of, I was very bored with, the direction that they were going in. And then along comes The Mandalorian.
Right.
That's kind of where we are. So I thought what we could start with is the stuff that we liked, maybe. Is that a good place to go?
I think so.
Or, yeah. The cast. Let's talk about the cast.
Okay.
Of The Mandalorian. I like the cast a lot.
It's arguably the best part about the entire series is the casting and the characters.
Yep.
I mean, Pedro Pascal's got this. It's funny. You don't see his face outside of a few moments, but he's got such a presence with the mask on. The way he carries his voice, the way he's calm, cool, and collected during pretty much any encounter, he manages to pull off just that stoic kind of look of the Mandalorian. Wears the armor well. I don't even know if it's him under the armor the whole time, but whoever's rocking that armor is doing a pretty good job. But the supporting characters and the voice acting around them, like Nick Nolte crushes it. I forgot the character's name, but there's just so many good side characters, even if they're only in it for an episode or two.
Like Ergonaut or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. He's
something
This
like
is
that.
the way guy. No, wait, sorry, that's...
No, he's the I have spoken guy.
That's the one, yeah, I have spoken.
Man, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, oh, that's Nick Nolte. And then he talked. I'm like, that's for sure Nick Nolte.
I was going to say, they didn't even have to put much makeup on him. It was great.
No, it's just...
Milling about.
That's... yeah.
I've spoken. Yeah.
Nick Nolte sounds like two cinder blocks rubbing together.
Yeah.
It's great though. That was really, hearing that, they really diversified the cast. They really I feel like they broke out of I think Rogue One did this as well, where the cast was just so, I thought, was very, very inspired. Like the casting was inspired.
What also aided it, I think, in the Mandalorian is the platform that they released it through, being or the medium, I guess, being a show. They didn't throw a bunch of characters at you right away. First episode, you get Carl Weathers, you get I can't remember if they bring in good old Werner, who is just titled as the client. Good old Werner Herzog.
Yo,
Dude,
man,
he's
Werner. Oh yeah, so let's talk about Werner, because he comes in and he's been in a lot of movies. He's played characters in plenty of movies, but he's also he's famous for his documentaries. Yes. And it's just I whenever he shows up in a movie, I'm always just kind of like, and he starts talking, I'm always thinking, because I don't know if you've seen any of his documentaries, but his voice is obvious. Like, he's doing the narration. Right. He's not just directing the documentaries. He is the narrator of the entire documentary. So whenever he talks, I just think of a documentary, watching a documentary that's being narrated. Yeah. Except he's talking in Star Wars, lingo. Yeah. And I'm like, this is just the weirdest thing. Like, to hear Werner Herzog, say the word Stormtrooper or Empire and Jedi, and I don't know, just hearing him do Star Wars stuff, I'm like, it's cool. It's very inspired. You wouldn't think that and that's part of what's attractive about the show. Like Timothy Olyphant, when he shows up in season 1 episode 1, which I like to call season 2 episode 1, which I like to call the Tremors episode. He shows up and I'm like, this is amazing. Timothy Olyphant's here. Katie Sackhoff, Rosario Dawson, fucking Michael Biehn shows up.
That's what I tried to do. That's what I tried to sell you on. I was like, yo, Michael Bihn's in this. You got to watch this.
Yeah, he's got 5 lines, but he doesn't really he's not really given much to do. Did you notice Michael Bihn's gun in the episode? Did you notice what he was using?
No.
It's like a blaster, but it's a shotgun, and it looks like a shotgun.
Yes, I did.
It's like the shotgun from it's a direct Aliens and Terminator reference. I'm like, that's kind of shit. What I was watching, it just made me smile. I'm like, man, these guys know what they're doing. If Michael Biehn's gonna use a gun in Star Wars, it's gonna be fucking shotgun.
Yeah, no,
for close encounters.
Dude, and so those are the kind of one-shot guests for the most part, but then you've also got the kind of recurring cast of Carl Weathers. Carl Weathers. Is it Gina Carano? I always forget her name.
Gina Carano. Yeah. We'll get back to her. She is not on my list of things I like. So we'll get. We can. She's.
It's funny. I actually did like her. I didn't like her performance.
Did you?
But there's some quality about her that just seems to fit. I don't know why. There was something. I know what you mean. She wasn't particularly good, but she just made sense. I don't know. It was just. I wish I could describe it more. I was watching it, and she's a train wreck of an actress in some regards, but she's also, I think, physically imposing enough to be buyable as what she does, and being as clunky as she is in just general conversation. So it's funny, like,
agree
she
with
was
you
well
there.
cast for what she was doing. She does get a lot of
I
lines,
agree. Yeah, I agree. I agree with the physicality part because everything she was doing physically, it was very convincing.
Yeah.
She's good at that. I think she's just a horrendous actress. She is. I think she is so like she just sucks the energy out of the room to the point where I can't even believe that they were on set that day and someone was like she delivered the line and they're like, "Yep, that's good. Let's keep moving." I'm like, "Oh, I just don't. I can't. I think she is so bad." And I rarely feel this way. Like there's really only one other performance where I'm just like, why is it like this? It was what's this in Thor Ragnarok?
Ruffalo?
The guy who plays the Hulk. Yeah, Ruffalo's performance in Thor Ragnarok I think is just atrocious too. But like I have this and I rarely feel this way, but like every line delivery, it's like it's like she's trying hard and there's nothing there. It's like it feels like a robot.
She probably just had a
delivering
really,
lines.
really good audition, and then every time they just did stuff on set, they're like, we could tell her to do it again, but she will beat the ever-loving shit out of us. So let's just not do it.
Of course.
All of a sudden, you're in a fucking Gina Carano armbar, and you just don't want to be there.
No, nobody wants. Nobody
She's
wants
like
to be there.
former UFC, so she's bad. She's bad. She's a bad motherfucker.
Yeah. I just like she was just awful. But there are other folks that are really great. Everyone that we just listed. Tamura Morrison, I like that guy. I've seen him in a ton of other movies. I like the fact that he's returning as Boba Fett. Bill Burr is MVP for me.
Yes.
I think one of my favorite moments in the entire show is with Bill Burr, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But yeah, like you wouldn't think that these, this is very inspired casting. Is
Yes.
I guess what I would say about this. The score.
Yes.
Ludwig. I'm not pronouncing this wrong. Göransson.
Yeah.
Ludwig Göransson. The score is really, really very good. It's got this like Ennio Morricone Western flourish to it, which I think is just exactly the vibe that this show is going for. And the theme, it's weird because the theme almost sounds like the Riders of Rohan theme from the Lord of the Rings. You're not a big Lord of the Rings guy, but maybe somebody listening to this podcast is. But it had me doing a bit of a double take. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because, the Rohan theme is very, very good. Great score. Enjoyed that immensely. I'm just going to keep going here on the things that I like.
Go for it. That's fine. I'm agreeing with you so far. If there's anything I disagree with you with,
Sure.
I will fight you for days.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Another thing where it was like a nuance that I think I enjoyed a lot more than maybe the average person would is like callbacks to other films, but not like specifically callbacks to episodes 1, 2, and 3. Like I enjoyed those because a lot of people tend to shit on like the episodes 1, 2, and 3 trilogy. I always find that there's something in there to like. So there are a couple things like, for example, some of the vehicles use like a pod racing engine, like a single, like the pod racers, like a single engine that drives a thing. Like the technology from like episode 1 is still kind of present in this universe. The robot repair droids from the episode 1 are in this, like the little droids with like the little headlamps for faces. And my favorite call out, where I was literally like, yes, just made me smile so much, is when Boba Fett, I guess, I can't remember the exact context, but they were being chased by 2 TIE fighters off planet.
Yes.
And it might have been the episode with Bill Burr where they were doing the mining heist. I think it could have been that. Where he's like, okay, I'll take care of these TIE fighters, and releases this bomb from his ship. And I knew exactly what it was when it came out. I'm like, this is going to be that fucking sonic bomb from episode 2 that just like blows up, but it sounds like a guitar.
Yeah.
And it's just like this, and I fucking, in episode 2, I loved that shit.
Yeah.
In episode 2, when it's Jango Fett's ship that's being chased by Obi-Wan. He's releasing these bombs that just sound like these. I called them sonic bombs. I don't know what the hell they're called, but they just sound like electric guitars. And boom, and he releases it and he destroys the 2 TIE fighters. And I'm like, yeah, that was fucking dope. And yeah, so I did enjoy those. I enjoyed the credit sequences containing concept art. I fucking really like that. I would just sit there and watch the credits, and my wife would be like, Shaka would be like, can we just watch the next episode? I'm like, no, you got to let these credits run, man. You got to see this. You got to see, and the concept art isn't exactly what's in the show, which is which makes it so interesting, is that like it's different artists' takes on what it could have been. It's slightly related, but sometimes there are like wild, like there are different designs for the creatures, for example.
Right. Yeah. Stuff. Absolutely.
Really fun. And the last thing the second last thing is different directors. You can tell that there's a different feeling to a lot of the each episode. In particular, when Boba Fett returns in season 2, that stood out to me because like the action in that was filmed differently. It was way more kinetic, way more kind of in your face. And I remember telling like Shagu while we were watching, I'm like, this is directed by somebody completely different, like, or maybe somebody I know, maybe somebody I don't, but like this is someone different than the other episodes. And it turned out that episode was directed by Robert Rodriguez.
No way.
I believe that episode was like Robert Rodriguez. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. Like if you watch that episode again, I'm like, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah. Holy shit.
So no, it's pretty cool. Like even Carl Weathers did an episode. Yep. That was another one where I was like, there's some flourish here that wasn't in the other episodes, and it makes them distinctly different.
Yes.
And I think that very, very cool, and they've maintained that. There's still cohesiveness, of course, throughout all of the episodes, but the different directors taking on some of the episodes, it gives them a bit of a unique identity. I like that. And the last thing here, I do love. Well, not the last thing. Second last thing. I have another point that creeped up here, but I love the Mandalorian mythology.
Yes.
Anytime that they're focused on this is when the show is really at its most interesting. The armor, the helmets, the code, the intrigue, all of that mythology is exactly what I wanted from the show.
Yeah.
And I think when we're going to get into this, the stuff I don't like about the show and why I dislike it kind of in general is because they choose not to focus on this for a big part of the show, and they choose to focus on other stories or another storyline or another plot that drives the entire thing. Let's talk about Bill Burr for a second.
Yeah.
Is that cool? The episode in question that I think Bill Burr, and that's kind of like quantifies my feelings on this on the show, is Bill Burr is in 2 episodes.
Yes.
The second episode he's in the first one is a heist episode, and the second episode he's in is in chapter 15. It's called The Believer. And it's about a mining heist where he's helping Mando and crew get some information on the location, I guess, of a ship. I think that's what they're there for. A lot of stuff happens. They infiltrate kind of like the main base, the Imperial base, and they are forced. They're posing as these these refinery drivers, but they're forced to sit down at a table with, I think, is kind of like not an admiral, but like a higher up in the Empire, kind of like this, like a lieutenant or something. Which, props to the show for giving these lieutenants and admirals an accent other than an evil British accent, because this guy is like from the southern United States or something. And I've seen this character actor before. I mean, he's always played smarmy characters, and he's doing a good job in this scene, playing a real douchebag.
Yeah.
So this whole scene plays out, and this is a showcase for Bill Burr, because he fucking nails this scene to the point where I'm like, I want more of that.
Yes.
Like, that's new, that's unique, and those are stories that I want to hear within the Star Wars universe. And this is the moment that kind of crystallized where I was and where I think a lot of other people are on this show, including my wife, because my wife's sitting next to me. I'm watching this thing, and I'm like, this is great. I want more of that. And she kind of looks at me. She's like, yeah, that was okay, but this is like a filler episode, right? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, this isn't really like, they're just doing this to get a piece of information, and then we're going to get back to the main story. And I'm like, right. Yes. You're right. You're right. And that's how you're looking at this. If you're looking at this, that this is kind of like a side story to get to the main plot, and that's when it kind of crystallized to me. Like, a lot of people, I think, are not interested in these other stories. I think they're interested. They're interested in the Jedi, and they're interested in the Force, and they're interested in the original trilogy characters and mythology, and whereas this moment with Bill Burr, I want entire shows or movies based on that moment, which are not anchored in any of these sort of, or in any of this sort of mythology. So it's kind of like that crystallized that my feelings kind of on in that moment where I realized where I was and then I realized where like I feel like the majority of other people are and what they want to see. Anyway, that's everything I liked about the show.
I want to echo how much I liked that episode as well, especially the scene you're talking about. It echoed very much to me like Inglourious Bastards. You know, what is it? The scene in the bottom of the bar. It screamed that to me, and that's my favorite scene of that entire movie too. And then those 3 or 4 minutes they might have been at that table was just so. You had the added tension of the fact that Mando's completely exposed. And not only just, armorless and maskless, really. It's also the fact that he's also exposed emotionally to Mayfeld. I think it's Mayfeld is his name.
Yeah, Mayfeld, yeah.
And it's you don't really know what Mayfeld's play is going to be in this. Because he's hasn't really revealed his true self and his true feelings on things. He's kind of hinted at some things here and there. But it wasn't until that conversation with that lieutenant or general or whatever, class of military he was, that you really start seeing that character. And then the tension starts to lift in one regard, but then it goes into a completely other place where you're like, okay, well, now what's going to happen to get them out of this situation as it ramps up and ramps up and ramps up. To echo Bill Burr's performance in this, I mean, he's shown that he's a capable actor in previous things that he's done, but never, nothing to write home about. He's no Gina Carano. But in this episode, he fucking crushes it. He is just so believable. You see the arrogant, jerk of a character that he is kind of fade away, and then you just see him stripped down for what he is. And I think that was just, it was so powerful. Like, to me, that was... Yeah. It's up there in the top 3 moments of that season for me in general, or maybe series. I mean, really, it's just and to be honest, the heist episode in the first season was my favorite of the episodes as well. But I'm also a huge comedy fan, so seeing Bill Burr in the Star Wars universe as a new character and a fun character was just, I'm a bit of a sucker for that.
That's wild. For sure, yeah, that's totally wild. I agree with everything you said there. Fantastic.
You didn't mention anything about the production value or the set. I say sets, but you know what I mean about that. I mean, some of it being practical, but then some of it, I'm sure a lot of it more was not so practical. But it seemed like they used practical wherever they could, as much as possible.
The look of the show was one of the things that's kind of in the dislike category, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I feel like the show looks a little plasticky. Like everything, it felt...
It's polished. I'd say it's very polished in a lot of regards. You know what? I'll say this. It's in terms of the seasons...
Sorry, go ahead.
Season 2 gets more of that for me, whereas Season 1 didn't feel nearly as plasticky, for lack of a better word. Season 2 seems a lot more polished and a lot more Disney-esque, I guess you could say. Like, it seems like people have been kind of given that the old spit shine. The first one was a little bit less so. I felt like that was a little bit more gritty and unique.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there in terms of like the split between season 1 and 2. But like just coming back to the different directors, the reason like it really that episode stood out was because it had an earthiness to it that none of the other episodes had. Mm-hmm. And I think it must have been shot on location somewhere, or maybe I could be wrong. I don't know exactly, but there's, the fight where Boba Fett is revealed and he takes out a couple of stormtroopers. There's nothing else in either season that looks like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of the lack of some of the digital sets that they were using. But there, I was reading a little bit about this, and I think there's a documentary out there about how they did this. I haven't seen it, but I wanted to know a little bit more about how they did some of this stuff, because I was trying to figure out what is it about the look of this show that's it's bothering me. There's something bothering me, and it turns out they used a lot of giant screens, basically LED screens that projected real-time 3D backgrounds, so that they can use like Mando's suit is all reflective, right? So they can use all kinds of reflective surfaces. And I don't know if you've seen Oblivion, that movie with Tom Cruise, which I love, but they did a similar thing there where they actually projected real scenes that they shot in high quality camera footage of like the tops of like volcanoes and stuff. And for Tom Cruise's character's base up in the clouds, they basically created giant TVs. So that's what they are. Projections of that high quality footage around. So it's not all the reflections and stuff are not CG. It's all accurate lighting based on what's being shown on the screens. And they took that approach, and they obviously improved it. And so they used that. But there's something about the execution there that makes the show feel more like the prequels than like the original trilogy. And it's this like you said, it was almost like this polish where it's like impossibly shiny.
Yeah.
I guess is like a word I would use. And I'm not sure whether that's a bad thing, but it was just something that it felt both like it was bound to a studio and it was open at the same time. It was something weird, and it's so hard to explain. But it was just something that I noticed. I don't think it really, and I just kind of accepted it as episodes flew by, as like, this is just kind of the aesthetic of the show.
Like I said, I found that more in season 2, and I think the 2 episodes that really stood out to me of looking like that was the first one with Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah.
And actually the one where Boba, and when they're at that Jedi temple. Like that one when they're all in the meadows and the greenery and everything. It just looked so... I like that it's a very different set than I think we've seen, where it's just kind of low grass. Like it looked like they're just on some rolling hills in Ireland or something like that, right? Which is where they shot. But it just seemed too clean and too bright and too green and lush. Where you compare it to like the forest scenes in Endor, where it's brown and green and lush, but it doesn't look like that. It's not as clean, and but the first season didn't feel like that. Like, I mean, granted, a lot of it was I'd say probably half of it was in dusty or dark or dank places. So they've kind of had that going for it. But even when they were in that village, like Gina Carano's village, when they were fighting the two-legged walker, it didn't look like that. Like, it didn't look polished to me in that. Whereas the second season was
it's interesting that you say that, because I'm thinking about that episode, and I felt that when I was watching it. I felt the polish on that episode. I guess this is going to play differently for everyone. But I guess what we can take away from this conversation is that there is something about the look of this show that's odd. And again, it's certainly not a deal breaker or anything. It's just something worth noting.
Fair enough. To be honest, for the most part, I did like it. I thought that it was done well, and it was unique. Like, that's the thing, is granted, they take you back to Tatooine, and some of the ships look kind of the same as, some of the other ships, but all in all, they kind of try to do some different shit here and there, which I thought was respectable. And the production budget alone, like, everything looked top notch. I mean, granted, there's been a lot of years between the prequels and these new ones, so the technology's really come a long way, and a lot of lessons learned. But like the quality on that, I'd put up against the newer Star Wars films easily. Like, I think that some of the stuff in some of the sets and whatnot, the digital or otherwise, looked arguably better than some of the stuff that we saw in even the Rise of Skywalker.
So in that regard, I would say, like, I partially agree. I think that there's a more organic feeling to the core movies than this show. I feel like there's something more tangible with them. They have their moments for sure. Like I mean, one I would think of right away is the Rise of Skywalker. There's that chase scene that felt like it was out of like The Mummy Returns or something like that, where they're going through the canyon or whatever, which I didn't think was very good. But there's a lot of other scenes that are shot on location, like they're in a desert or they're, it doesn't feel studio bound in the way that the show feels that it's studio bound, but I can't tell where the seam is. It's not like I'm like, oh, this is obviously a studio, but there's something that's giving me that feeling, and I can't figure it out.
I don't know. I feel the opposite. I felt like those ones felt more studio-y, whereas this one felt like Mando felt more organic. So I guess we'll have to agree to disagree on that one.
Yeah. Go ahead. Anything else in like the light category that you wanted to highlight?
In the first season, just so we kind of talked a little bit about the characters and casting, but I felt that they did a really good job at reusing old characters instead of creating brand new ones where necessary. I don't feel like and I think this is a point we'll probably disagree on, but I don't think that they overly relied on old Star Wars mythos more than they needed to. Obviously, season 2 is much different than season 1 in terms of what they did there. Season 1, there were some callbacks as to the history of Return of the Jedi, but for the most part, it was pretty much its own story. Aside from the fact that, within, I think it was episode 1, it's like, hey, here's a new fucking Jedi. But that aside, I mean, look, what did they name him? Gorgon or something like that?
Gorku,
whatever. I'm still calling him Baby Yoda because the name when I heard the name, I'm like, that's a shitty name. Come on. But anyways,
I think Grogu or something.
The child. I'll continue calling him the child. He's a glorified plot device. That's really all he is.
Yeah.
That's all he is. He doesn't contribute to anything else to the story aside from just being a plot device. And I don't know if that's going to be, I don't think that's going to be a contentious point in our discussion, but I mean, if anybody else wants to argue the fact, like, he's cute and cuddly and he's going to sell a whole lot of toys, but the second I saw him on there, he really is just a ploy for Disney to be able to sell some shit. He's super cute, super marketable, and a callback to, obviously, Yoda, one of the most famous Jedi and characters in the whole Star Wars mythos. Him aside, everything else I thought was quite good in that first season where they did not rely on any old shit. Like, you could have gone into that entire series, first season, no knowledge of Star Wars other than maybe the original trilogy, and been completely okay. And even the original trilogy, you didn't need it that much. Really, you just needed to kind of establish the time period you're in and kind of the surrounding factors. Who is the Empire? What are they talking about just happened? Kind of get your bearings. But outside of that, you really don't need to have a ton of Star Wars knowledge. Season 2... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So I was going to say, that's interesting you mentioned that, because I kind of think of them both, because we watched them like together, essentially season 1 and 2 kind of all the way through. So anyway, finish your thought. I interrupted you.
I was going to say season 2 relied more on that, but not as much as I would have, as I'm making it sound like. Obviously, there's a couple of moments in season 2 that are very much dependent on old stuff, but they brought out some characters, and I can't remember the Mandalorian character that what's her name plays. I always forget it, but she was very important in like the animated shows. And the concept of the Darksaber and what that signifies in Mandalorian tradition.
Ahsoka. You're talking about the
not Ahsoka Tan.
Katie Sackhoff.
Katie Sackhoff, yeah, that character. Okay. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. But anyways, like bringing in those characters, like those are.
Bo-Katan. I think that's her name.
Bo-Katan,
right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
And also Boba Fett and bringing back some of these characters, but they didn't really. They had a place for them. Like, they could have created new characters for these, but they thought, you know what? These people exist in this mythos at this time period. Why don't we use them? And they used them well. They were well cast and well performed. So I like that they did that, but they didn't overuse it. Like, if all of a sudden there's, every single other character and their mother comes in, I don't need that. But I felt like they brought them in at the right time for the most part.
Yeah, I guess
nothing. So felt forced.
I haven't seen Clone Wars. I saw the 2D animated
Yeah, it's
by Tartakovsky, but I never saw the Clone Wars like 3D animated series, and I guess that's where, Ahsoka is featured heavily in that series. But
yes.
I guess I didn't realize Bo-Katan was she from that series from Clone Wars, or
I believe she was in there. I don't know if it was that or Rebels. She was more featured heavily in, but she was definitely in those ones. I saw most of Clone Wars, if not all of it, and it's really, really good. It's worth your time.
Yeah, I've heard it's good. Yeah. No, I agree that with the choice of the story that they decided to tell for fans of Star Wars, I think that especially for like cohesiveness, I think they went out of their way to be like, let's try and be inclusive and cohesive with our new content. I feel like that's kind of like a mandate at this point for them. Yeah, and truth be told, like I didn't know that Bo-Katan was an existing character, but I didn't need to.
No, you didn't.
I think that's a good thing, and I think that's how the show should work.
Same thing with Ahsoka. Like you didn't really need to know her; you just needed to know that she was a Jedi, and she was the end goal of that episode was to find her.
Well, one quick thing, quick tangent. I mean, while the look of the show, like again, we were talking about, there's something about the look of the show that is strange. The sound editing on the show is just fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
It is so well put together, and the reason I mention that because you mentioned like Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano, when she sparks the lightsabers, the way they sound, especially that first scene where she's introduced, it's kind of misty, and you've kind of got the they're being stalked by her, so like they're using the effects in the rear speakers enveloping you, and that you hear the lightsaber spark in the left like rear speaker, and it's strike in the other side because she's running all over the place in the forest. I'm like, this is fantastic. It sounds the sound on that show is immaculate. It's very, very well put together, and we got to watch it at a good loud volume, and it was great.
That opening scene too. Like, let's talk about that real quick. That was like a horror movie, and I watched it 2 or 3 times in a row. Just because I really like the way that they played it, playing with the mist, playing with the visual of the lightsabers, and like you said, the sound. Like it's only so often that I notice like it sounds like it's burning the water particles in the air. Yeah, just the little nuances about it and the way that I was blown away. And then also Michael Biehn shows up out of nowhere, and that just kind of
Yeah, I see Michael Biehn, and he's got like 3 lines, but I'm just like so happy he's in it.
Oh, I just like seeing him get work where he seems like he's in the right place.
I fucking just love that he's in it. And when he pulls the shotgun out and uses the shotgun, I'm like, fucking yes.
Yeah.
Of course he's got a shotgun in the Star Wars universe. I'm like, I don't think we've seen a shotgun in a live action Star Wars movie before. I feel like this or live action Star Wars or anything. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think anyone's used a blaster shotgun. No, that wasn't in like a Battlefront game or something like that. Very, very cool. No. So we talk. We're kind of drifting into the dark place where we're probably gonna fight about this. But we talked about Gina Carano. I think we disagree on Gina Carano. I think she's. I thought she was not very good in this show. So, my main beef with this show is just its inability to focus on things that make it unique. Like, I feel like it introduces all of these really great ideas, and then veers into the place where it's like, oh, I'm going to show you all that stuff, but don't worry, we're still talking about the stuff that you know and love. And what I was hoping for was something like a unique mythology, which they do introduce, but decide not to spend as much time on as the other stuff. And new stories, new characters, new locations, really blowing the lid off of like the stuff that we know and telling these unique stories within the framework of the Star Wars universe. Unfortunately, like I watched the first episode, and like that dream that I had just gets flushed down the toilet, like right in that first episode, and I see this, baby. I don't know what they don't name the race. I guess that Yoda is, but
I can look it up.
It's not a baby. It's not baby Yoda as much as it is a young being of Yoda's race and introduce. And I'm just like, immediately I was like, oh, this isn't gonna be about the things I want it to be about. And this is a very intensely personal thing because, like I said before, I just felt really tired, so exhausted after like the last Star Wars movie, and I'm just like really looking for something unique. And I don't think that this show needs Jedi. I don't think this show needs, lightsabers and the Force. It doesn't need it. It really, really doesn't. And that's the part that I hate about it. And hate's a strong word. I think this is a very well-crafted show. I think this is a very well put together show. I just don't like it. I'm not interested. I'm bored. Like I half the time I'm just kind of sitting there not interested what's happening because it's all stuff that we've already it's all stuff that we already know about that I don't really want to know more about. I don't want to know more about this. I want to know about all this new stuff that you've introduced that for whatever reason you're not interested in telling me more about. At the end of, I think it was at the end of season 1, when like they're showing the the Mandalorian culture, and they're showing the one Mandalorian that she's like the smith, and she's like making this armor with like a hammer and anvil, and these stormtroopers come down and she just dummies all the stormtroopers like with the hammer and anvil. I'm like, yeah, let's get more of that, because that was awesome. Like I want to see more of that. But no, the second season goes into like, and it goes into the Force, and it goes into all of it basically does what Rise of Skywalker did, unfortunately, and then culminating in the last episode, which just caused me to tear my hair out. Like it really got under my skin when that last episode came up, and like the last scene of that last episode comes up, and it just crystallizes what they're doing, and that they're not interested. They are not interested in giving you something wholly new. They give you little tidbits, but wrap you in this warm blanket of the stuff that you already know about. And I just can't get on board with that. I've watched all the stuff that they've come out with, and I'm just tired. I'm just tired of it. I'm fucking bored. Stop it. Like, stop boring me. And that's kind of my beef with the show. And I really want to talk about this last episode in particular, because I know that we disagree very, very much on this last episode. But yeah, anyway, that's my stance on this.
Jane, you ignorant slut. Look, you're wrong. I just want to preface that you're wrong. No,
actually, it's preface.
So here's the thing. I see where you're going with this. Like, I see what you're saying. I look at this almost as kind of a John Wick-esque kind of universe, let's say, where John Wick 1, they introduced the whole concept of this underground assassins guild and all of this world, but they really they focus a lot more on the action than diving into that mythos.
Sure, yeah.
Second movie, you get a little bit more, and the third one, you get a little bit more. But ultimately, this stuff is peppered in with whatever the driving theme or story is of the movie. I look at that as these seasons. So the concept or the theme of the first one was this Moff Gideon wanting to get the child, and then this father-son relationship between Mando and the child. The fact that the child, and I will say this, and I don't care if you agree or not, the fact that the child is a Jedi in season 1 makes little to no difference. It's just a plot device. That's all it is. The Empire wants it, and they want it for nefarious means, and probably is going to cost the child his life, and Mando becomes attached, much like a father, to this child, who is also powerful. And you get a little bit of force powers and stuff, but that's really not the point of the first season. The first season's really just protecting this child and getting him away from this Moff Gideon character. And then, it's very episodic as well, as is obvious. But then the second season does call more to the whole Jedi thing. But the thing that you had to know, like the reason that I feel like getting upset about it now is just completely wasted effort. Like, you shouldn't even bother to watching the second season, is that you knew he was a Jedi. And as soon as they introduce that, like, you know they're going to go down that path at some point. And I love the Jedi mythos. Like, I grew up on Star Wars just as much as you did. And when I was growing up, because I'm, 42 years younger than you are, the character of Luke Skywalker was like up there with Optimus Prime as like my top two heroes. I still remember the first time I saw him walk into Jabba's palace and just go like this and just part the sea of those two fucking the orcs, I always called them. They're not orcs, they're pigmen or whatever they are. But anyways, he was like one of my childhood heroes. And to have that character be able to come back and have a story that's being told in his realm where he was active and in his prime, you just are hoping as that fan to be able to see that character again. At least that I was. And the fact that they had this Jedi character, you kind of knew that they were going to go down there. And they had dropped subtle hints throughout and some not so subtle hints. I mean, when Ahsoka Tano says something like, yeah, maybe a Jedi is going to find you, wink, wink. It's like...
Oh, no, I know. Oh, no, I mean, I had no delusions about where this was going in a similar way that after I saw the first 10 minutes of Rise of Skywalker, I knew exactly what I was in for.
Right. But the thing is I don't feel like this garners the amount of outrage that they are rehashing some old material. Rise of Skywalker was blatant. Like, it was a completely blatant overuse of something that was also a huge pivot off of something that was not received well. It just felt like a knee-jerk reaction, and it was thematically weak. Whereas this one, you had the whole first season where you had this character. They established it is of, I don't know, Jedi quality, I guess you could say. And they didn't lean on that much at all. And then the second season was the quest of that Jedi. And the other stuff that you liked, all the Mandalorian stuff, I agree. I'd love to see more of that. And I think that they gave us enough to keep us interested. And I want to see where they go. And now that the child's gone, it's opened up, baby. You can do whatever you want. But let's be real. Like they're not gonna they're not gonna drop this altogether, right? This isn't. I don't think the tone of the show is going to change in that way because. This is it's a marketing decision. Like, to tell this story and to tether something so new to something that is tried, tested, and true. That is how they're doing this because they're getting because of The Last Jedi, right? Like, I mean, they will never take a chance like that again. They're never going to take a chance like that again. And I mean, I suppose that's both good and bad. For me, I'm like, I'd rather have them take wacky chances than weave this story, which I think is, I feel like this story, it feels forced. The whole thing feels forced in that it's been constructed in such a way that they have these, they've constructed something in such a way that they are like, okay, we can give them a little bit of the new stuff, but so we don't alienate the audience, let's write in a way to give them as much old stuff as we can. It's like a 3-to-1. It's like a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 parts new, 3 parts old, nostalgic stuff, and 1 part something new. No.
And that's what it's what it felt like to me when I was watching it, and there. The other thing, and it's not just the characters, right? It's the places too. And it's like, this universe has never felt smaller to me when watching this show. I'm like, it's not a fucking galaxy. It's like 3 planets, and the same fucking 3 planets we went through, like, the last, the rest of the trilogy. How are we always ending up back on, like, Tatooine? It's just nuts to me. Like, there's this entire universe that we can explore, but we always, and not only we end up back on Tatooine, we end up back on fucking in Mos Eisley. And not only are we back in Mos Eisley, we're back in this fucking bar. It's the same fucking bar that Greedo, I swear to God, they probably panned over a thing where somebody put some plaster up where Greedo was, shot, or where Greedo missed his shot. I don't know. it's when I see that, it's groan worthy to me, to the point where I'm like, stop doing. We don't need to be here. Like we do not need to be here. Can we be somewhere else? Like, why, the Sand People are featured heavily. Like, why are we back with the Sand People? Can we just fucking go somewhere else and do something else, anything else? It's creatively, it just feels like being bashed over the head with old Star Wars symbolism over and over again, to the point where I'm just numb. Like, I'm looking at it, I'm just kind of like watching it happen, and it means nothing to me anymore.
I don't know, man. I feel like there's enough different sets. Like, yeah, they're at the same planets occasionally. I mean, it's not like they were on Tatooine, 7 of the 8 episodes. I think it was of the 16 episodes they've gave us, I think they were on Tatooine 3 times maybe, and not for the full episodes. You know what I mean? Or Tatooine-esque looking places. But I feel like you're being a little hard on that regard. But regardless, I mean, the quests and the people are the differentiating factors here as well, right? It's not like they're doing the same shit again.
No. But it's an example of how it's okay. How do I put this? It's an example of always matching something new with something old. And not just something old, it's something very, very familiar. And there's nothing new gained without giving you something old. And I feel like that's the part of the show that bothers me. And I mean, you've used some words here like outrage, anger. It's not. I think the show's fine. I think it's just fine. I don't think it's a bad show. I think it's, like I said, it's well crafted, and I don't find it all that interesting, and for those reasons, those are the reasons I feel like it's being held back. Because some episodes, I'm just, so.
I think
I'm not going to convince you. Like, I'm not going to convince you.
You're not.
Can we just?
I don't think so.
Can we just talk about
the thing is, I don't think you're going to convince anybody. I think this is very much
this is a very
thing. Like, you're the only person that's focusing on these little things, and you're like, why can't everything be different? It's like, yeah, it could all be different, but you know what? I look at these planets as kind of like the GTA. I'm not going to go to Calgary, but I'll go to Scarborough. They're not going to go to Tatooine, or they're not going to go to a completely different planet, but Tatooine's just down the road, baby. It's an hour. It's an hour by light speed. Let's go. It's fine.
Let's talk about this last episode, because it had one. Let's just throw down on this last episode,
okay?
Because there are things I want to say. So at one point, we did talk about the score and how the score is really great. There's one point where the score almost drifted into a place where I wanted to fucking wring the guy's neck. Is when the I guess I can't remember, the Dark Troopers. I think that's what they're called, like the robots. And it almost, like, the score drifts into like dubstep. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yes, yeah.
But when they come, it goes into dubstep. I'm like, oh my god, I hope this doesn't last longer than like 5 seconds. And luckily, it doesn't. It just kind of like, and it's an interesting choice for that. It definitely matches with the visuals, but not my favorite. Not my favorite genre of music. I thought it was kind of ballsy for them to do that. But then, okay, obviously, let's talk about the final episode and the last scene in this episode. So they, what's his, Grogu, or the child has contacted someone.
Yes.
And this someone comes and saves them. They're all in a room together, and this person, it ends up being, Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker. And I thought it was a character from South Park. Because every time he fucking talks, I'm like, what's wrong with what's wrong with his face?
Okay.
I swear to God, it looks worse than Zombie Tarkin from Rogue One. Like, no. It looks worse than that.
It's funny. I watched Zombie Tarkin after I watched that episode, because I thought it was, like, not great either.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the sentiment. But you look at Zombie Tarkin, it is worse than...
Is it? I haven't seen Rogue One in a long time.
It's worse. It's worse, for sure.
It's for whatever reason, like, when he's just standing there looking, it's fine. when he starts talking, like, I don't, it's just, I found it, I was just like, I couldn't look.
Yeah,
I couldn't look at it. It was rough.
I was really hoping
it's-
it would. When he took off the hood, I was really hoping, because they didn't really establish how much time really between Return of the Jedi and this one. It seemed like it was close, but it didn't seem like it was yesterday. So I was really hoping it was going to be like, a somewhat digitally de-aged Mark Hamill, but played by Mark Hamill. I didn't like what they did here. I mean, it's funny. The guys at Corridor Digital, I think I've talked about their YouTube channel at least a couple times.
Yeah.
They did a video where they had wanted to fix what they called the worst VFX on a film ever, which was the Scorpion King. And that was when The Rock comes out all scorpion-y, right? And one of the things that they wanted to fix was the god-awful facial animations on him.
Yeah.
And what they ended up doing was they just put they made a Rock deepfake, basically. They used the deepfake technology on him. That seemed like that might have been I'd seen people try to do that with this, and doing a deepfake on top of a digital representation on somebody is a little janky. But it's something that could have been leveraged here in some way and spruced up. And honestly, they might have been able to take the technology even farther than it already is right now. I mean,
which is scary in its own.
Dude, some of the deepfake stuff. My brother sent me this one small tangent where it's a bunch of these comedians that I like, Joe Rogan, Chio Santino, Segura, all those guys. And it was over wrestlers. So you had like Joe Rogan as the Iron Sheik. Santino was the Undertaker. You had Bobby Lee as fucking Paul Bearer. It was the greatest. It was great. But yeah, in this case, like the direction they went with Luke, the technology is just not there. It's not there yet for longer than like a couple of seconds of a shot. Where it's a full conversation with Luke Skywalker at that age, it just didn't work. It's unfortunate, but because it kind of took me out of it. But at the same time, everything that happened before then was so goddamn amazing that I was like, I'll let this pass. I get the sentiment that they're going for. And I'll be honest, this was the logical conclusion to the fact that they were seeking a Jedi to train Grogu or Gorgu or whatever the fuck.
I mean, it could have easily been some
No, I disagree.
Yeah,
I disagree.
it could have
There's
been
only
someone
one other
else.
person I would have accepted, and that would have been Sam Jackson. But that aside, Luke Skywalker is without a doubt the guy. If you want a Jedi to train you in that universe, it's Luke. He's the guy. And in my opinion, if he was going to contact a Jedi and one that is powerful enough to just pick up transmissions out of nowhere, apparently, because it doesn't seem like Ahsoka can do that kind of shit, Luke's the guy. And there was really no other. There was no other place for them to go. And to be honest, I forgot that this was coming. All of a sudden, when that X-Wing came in, I lost my shit. I was out of my mind. I'm still reliving it because, like, those reaction videos that people have and people are flipping out?
Yeah.
You put a camera on me, that would have been me.
Yeah. I had the exact opposite reaction.
I know. You were probably like, oh, no, more old stuff. Why
do I sound like an angry Santa Claus?
Because you pretty much are.
When the X-Wing docks, I remember I was watching it with Shuggu, when the X-Wing docks, I'm like, God, fuck. And Shuggu's like, that was my reaction. I remember, and then he comes out and he's got the green lightsaber. I'm like, oh Jesus, it's fucking Luke Skywalker. And Shuggu was really excited. Yeah. And I was just sitting there and I'm just like, fuck this show.
That is so
it was really funny
to me, dude. I can't. I don't want to go too much into this episode, mainly because I know that. We'll definitely go into it, but like, we are not going to agree. There's no convincing either of us.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Granted, you're wrong and I'm right, but that aside, I mean, you're entitled to your incorrect opinions.
So just to complete the thought, like this whole scene,
it's not a thought, it's just a stupid feeling, but go ahead.
The whole scene with Luke Skywalker crystallized this whole thing. I'm like, why is this all so small? These ideas are so small.
You said scene. I think you mispronounced masterpiece. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah. These ideas on this show are so tiny. You guys need to we're supposed to blow the top off of this thing, and yet we're folding back in on ourselves, and now we've ended up with Return of the Jedi, South Park, Luke Skywalker here, and fucking like how much mythology can you cram in between every movie, in between the trilogies, like these like. It's like I say, like if like a sandwich, you can only put so much stuff in there before it becomes like unwieldy.
But
like
what other stuff is there though? The quest for a Jedi alone, like the quest for the Jedi aside, all the other stuff is stuff that they packed in. That I mean, did Boba Fett have to show up all of a sudden? Not really. It was pretty goddamn cool to see Boba Fett back. You know what I mean? Like, I don't hear you complaining a lot about Boba Fett right now, and he was shoehorned into this bitch like no other. I mean, fucking Timothy Oliphant comes in wearing his shit like he just got it off of eBay.
Yeah. I mean, found in the fucking desert because we're always back on Tatooine.
Yeah.
Like we're fucking back on Tatooine, and we're just. This show should just be called Tatooine and 3 other planets.
Scarborough, Brampton, Mississauga, Toronto.
Because everyone's on fucking Tatooine. You're walking through the desert and you're just like, oh, there's some fucking armor. It's like Tatooine is no longer a planet. It's literally like 3 blocks, like 3 city streets. That's what that's what the whole place is.
We're gonna go over to Mos Eisley, get some sulagi. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Big style.
Yeah, I can't get on board with how small like these ideas are. And when I say small, I mean small as in like we've done this already. Let's move on. Let's show something else. And I don't know. Fuck. I get it. I get why people like it. I get why you like it, and I get why Shagu likes it, and I get why the world likes it. But I'm just fucking. I'm just tired, man. I'm bored. This bores me. You bore me. And I don't know what else to say.
I don't know. I think
other than fuck you.
There's a lot to like about this series. I agree in terms of the second season. There was certainly an over reliance on old stuff. Like it seemed like they basically were like, we've got this Jedi here and we've got to do something about this. So let's go down that Jedi path. And that's essentially what they did. But the thing is, they didn't lean too heavily into old stuff until really that last episode. They pepper it in here and there. You've got some old characters or some, characters that were established in the animated series that pop up. But overall, it wasn't like, like I said, I think I said this before, it wasn't as blatantly shoehorned in as The Last Jedi or the Rise of Skywalker was, right? For the most part, it was pretty subtle. Yes, Luke coming in at the end the way that he did was certainly over the top. But to be honest, it was earned. From the very first episode in season 1, this is where it was leading. And they peppered it in enough in season 2 to kind of give you the hopes that this might happen. You might see Luke Skywalker again come and grab this Jedi. And then you kind of forget about it because, everything had happened, I think, maybe 2 episodes ago. I think it was 2 episodes before the finale is when they actually kidnapped the child. Then you get Mayfeld, and then that's when they are chasing down, Moff Gideon. Which, by the way, I love, what's his name? Giancarlo
Esposito?
I can't remember his last name, but the guy who plays Moff Gideon. He's so good. I really, really enjoyed him.
He's pretty good. I enjoyed that as well. He's got like kind of the Darth Vader chess piece thing going on there. I don't know what the deal with that is, but
he got it in Tatooine.
Yeah. The fucking thrift store in Tatooine that just been carrying all has just been carrying all of the goods from like all the original trilogy. Hey, if you guys need some stuff from the original trilogy, just pop on by. I've got it all here. I'll take that. I'll take that Darth Vader chest plate. Thanks.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Anyways.
Fuck.
It like there is much less of a reliance on old themes than I think that you are spouting. And the good thing is, hold on, let me finish my thought.
Yeah,
the good thing is too is that now that they've reached the logical end of this child's journey, and the fact that he's found his training master in Luke Skywalker, I have no doubt that he'll come back at some point. But now it kind of opens up the question of now what's going to happen. Like, what are they going to focus on now? Where are they going to go with this story? Are they going to go into the Mandalorian mythos a little bit more? And I think they will, because now you've got this dark saber that is now property of Mandalorian. He didn't give it over to what's her name, right? I'm trying to remember. I don't think he does, because she has to beat him to take it.
I think he's still got
kill him
this,
or whatever.
I think he's still got it.
Right. Yeah. So now you've got this. I think that they're going to go very much in that direction. Like, I don't think we're going to see much of anything that is old territory, at least in the original trilogies or the prequels or whatnot. I don't think we're going to see that play out again, or at least not to the level that we did in season 2. That's my feeling on it.
Yeah, I mean that could be the case. I mean we'll have to wait and see. But your season 1 versus season 2 assessment is mostly right. I think that season 1 doesn't rely on that too much, but just the child's presence in the show, just it just reminds me constantly that that's this show is eventually going to be about this. The Darksaber shows up at I guess at the end of season 1. I think so. Yeah. Season 1, I mean, look, season 1 and 2, I'm kind of treating this all as one kind of thing, and they don't really. You're right. They don't really touch on it too much in season 1, other than the fact that this child has the Force, and even that, I was just like, what? Like, why? I was always constantly asking myself, like, why is this? Anytime they didn't focus on that were parts that I liked.
Well, they didn't focus on it at all in season 1. They kind of they showed him that he had power, but I don't even know if they really delved. They didn't talk about the Force.
Well, he uses it. I mean, he uses it. He uses it several times, right?
Yes, he uses it, but I'm saying that's not the central focus. Why he has these powers and why he can do what he can do is not really a focus of the first season at all. It's the second season where they bring it in, where they're like, we need to figure out how to get this guy's shit under wraps. And that's when they introduce the concept of the Jedi and the Force and finding a mentor and all of that jazz.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Basically, the first season, you have no reason to hate. So you should really just shut
I don't hate this show.
Yes, you do. You just said you did.
I don't hate this show. I'm just not. I think that's the issue.
You're bored.
Don't hate it. I'm not interested because I don't feel like it has I don't feel like it's gonna show me anything new.
What if they had a better space travel agent and they visited more places? Would that make you happy?
Visited more planets? That's more other planets. Yeah, for sure. I think that.
Hold on a second.
And we talked about Boba Fett, right? You were talking about like he was shoehorned in.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of agree with you, and I do also have an issue with how they characterized Boba Fett because he doesn't have too much screen time even in Empire and Return of the Jedi, but but it's even whatever's shown, it seems a little inconsistent with kind of what they show in here, and he's got in the Mandalorian, but the show is actually built around this Mandalorian culture, and it's about other people like him, right? The armor is Boba Fett's armor.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I'm less concerned about them bringing Boba Fett into the show or things that are related to that into the show. It could be a little janky, but I'm like, I don't care too much about that. It's just when they start introducing concepts that I don't need to know about it, because you don't know anything about Boba Fett. Like, frankly, like the Empire and Jedi don't really tell you anything about him other than he's kind of a goofball. He goes out like a cartoon.
I will say this about Boba Fett, and I know this is going to be controversial, and I don't give a shit. He is the most overrated Star Wars character in history. Period.
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with you. I'm not even sure how fandom for Boba Fett started, but I was on that train because purely from a visuals standpoint. I just thought he looked amazing. That was it. That was it for me as a kid. I was like, this armor just looks super dope, and I just want to draw it all day.
Mm.
But I think you're right. There's nothing to work with. He doesn't really do anything.
No, he's useless. He's just background fodder. I never understood the draw to him. I know he was popular. Yeah, he looked cool, but like the stylistic look of a character I'm not nearly as artistic as you, so I guess it didn't connect with me nearly as much. So when I saw him, I was just like, yeah, he's kind of cool and just chilling in the cut, but like, I don't know. I just didn't understand the allure.
Yeah, what's the big deal? Yeah.
He was always touted as this big badass, and all he did was fly out, wrap somebody up in some sort of kinky net thing, and then he jumped into the Sarlacc pit because a blind Han Solo shoved a poker up his butt. That's how I remember it, at least. I don't know. I might have seen the porn parody of Return of the Jedi.
No, I don't think that there's actually anything like from a character standpoint that's very special about him in Star Wars. I think for me it was purely visual. But the Mandalorian is dealing with that culture and is dealing directly visually. It's like the armor. And why do you know what that armor looks like? Because of Boba Fett or because of Jango Fett. All these guys. So I'm like, you're gonna shoehorn something in from a previous series and it's gonna be Boba Fett. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense because that's where this is all coming from, right? This mythology is starting from there. So that was just to kind of address the Boba Fett thing. I don't think it was done in a way that was super organic. But I kind of
it just shows up all scarry, like, hey, I hitched a ride. Somehow I guess, I don't know. I guess he remembered where he parked Slave One.
Yeah, well, he had to get out of the Sarlacc's, gullet. I don't know how I don't think they explain how he gets out, but
or how he got separated from his armor. Like, did he take it off and some Jawas just ran off with it? Like, got it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. Maybe he took. Why would he take it off like while he's in the Sarlacc pit? Let me take this thing off.
Only things that are probably keeping him alive.
It's kind of silly.
One thing I wanted to mention that I really liked that I don't think we really touched on too much was the use or lack of use around the Mandalorian taking his helmet off. We don't get kind of the Marvel approach of helmets and masks in this series at all. In the sense that you see, in season 1, you have one moment where he takes off his helmet. And then in season 2, you get 2 moments. And all of them are earned. I can't remember. I think what was the reason that he took off his helmet in the first season? It was a life and death thing with IG-11. I think he needed to take it off for a reason.
Yeah, he needed to take. Yeah, he needed to. The android needed the helmet off to fix him.
Yeah, that's what it was. So there was a reason for it, right? And then, but the thing is, he doesn't do it all willy-nilly, which is extremely important because for the 2 moments that he took off his helmet in the second season, they were all very earned and very impactful times. That goes into the tenseness of the scene with Mayfeld. That I was alluding to earlier, is that because he's taken off his mask, he is completely exposed to Mayfeld, to his enemies, to everybody. But it's not just the fact that he's exposed and you can see his face, and that it's the fact that you can see that he's got everything riding on the fact that he wants to find his boy, or his Yoda, his Yoda, his shaved gizmo. He will give up literally the most important thing to him to be able to get what is actually the most important thing to him. And when he's about to lose the most important thing to him, to the greatest Star Wars character of all time, he manages to take off his mask in front of a crowd. He doesn't give a shit. He just wants to see the child with his own 2 eyes, because it doesn't seem like, I don't think he's ever seen the child with his own 2 eyes. And I thought that was a very important moment as well. And that's the thing, is that like the fact that they stuck to their guns around that, I commend them for it, because I worry too much that they want, and maybe that's why they cast a guy like Pedro Pascal, is that they were like, we can tell him to keep the mask on. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Marvel
This is
movies,
more
I feel
of,
like
like-
Spider-Man's got his mask off more than he's fucking got it on. Like, put that back on. You need that.
Yeah, this is definitely like a Dredd scenario versus a Judge Dredd Stallone scenario.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't even think Stallone had the helmet on.
Yeah, I think he wear. I've been watching little bits and pieces of the Stallone Judge Dredd, and it's fucking kind of amazing.
It's so bad.
It is. It's not good. It's
Dude,
not good.
there's this one shot of him walking across the street where they have a full, like, they've got the camera fully
Firefight?
back, and
Oh,
he's in
yeah.
he's wearing stilts. Like, he's got fucking heels this big.
Platforms.
Because Stallone's a tiny dude. He's like 5'6". He's a small little fella.
Armand Asante is just something else in that movie. It's
yeah.
just amazing.
Oh, it's so awful.
Yeah, the helmet. So yes, I agree with you. Also, I find it hard to watch Mandalorian without thinking like how much that armor must stink. Like his clothes must just be ripe. I can't like I look at him, I'm like, man, I don't know if he's taking a shower. I don't know if he's laundering his clothes. Like I have no idea. If he's not, he's out in the desert all the time. He's on Tatooine like 90% of the time. You know, he must really be ripe.
You want to see new stuff in Star Wars films. Do you want to see the Mandalorian doing his laundry for an entire episode? Is that what you'd like to see?
Yeah, that would have been better than seeing South Park Luke Skywalker. If they just
Hey, buddy.
if the door just
Did you use the
fucking
force to
opened-
call me? I just tore up a bunch of robots for you.
If the door just opened up and they randomly just cut to home videos of the Mando like cleaning his armor in a bucket of like soap and water, I would have been like, that's fine. Totally fine.
He's still got the helmet on, though. He's just completely... He's just helmet and underwear, just scrubbing. Close the door!
I said, don't bother me when I'm cleaning my armor. Oh my god.
Oh, my God.
Anyway. Yeah. So, it's fine. And I don't, it's fine. And the parting shot I'll take here is that, season 3 comes out. I may come around to watching it. I may not. I don't know.
I will
that's where
tell
I'm
you,
going.
you should watch it. I'm going to lie to you if you shouldn't, and I know whatever's on there. If the very first shot is Luke Skywalker with a floaty head coming on and lightsaber battling other people with lightsabers, I'm going to tell you that it's all Mandalorian stuff and you need to watch it because it's very important.
That would be so upsetting.
Yeah, I'm
if
gonna
you
lie
set
to
that precedent.
Lie right to your face.
If you set that
Just know I'm going to
precedent,
recommend the first episode, and you're not going to know whether it's a legitimate recommendation or not. And I'm going to tell you, like, look, I know we talked about this on the podcast, and I said I'd lie to you. I'm not lying. You absolutely need to see this. And the first scene is going to be Luke Skywalker just going like this with his lightsaber. That's it.
Vroom, 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 vroom. I'm much more on the boat of like Luke Skywalker throwing his lightsaber away in The Last Jedi. Like I fucking love that scene. And I know so many people hate that. You hate that scene.
I hate
I
it
was
with a
just like,
passion.
yes, this is so great.
The quest to the most important character in my life. my one of the heroes of my childhood, and he just takes that and says, fuck you, and just throws it away, and I'm like, you.
That's like meeting Optimus Prime for the first time, and he just throws the Matrix of leadership away. He's like, that doesn't mean
I
anything.
don't need that. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, never mind. I was gonna bring up something else.
Anyway, it's been a long episode.
Yeah, we just cracked 2 hours, baby. This is like we haven't missed a step.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's much else to say on this.
We'll never agree on this. I think we covered all the points I want. I did want to mention that Clancy Brown was in a full devil makeup, which was amazing.
That was the other thing. Yeah. That was Clancy Brown.
That was Clancy Brown, baby. You gotta love Clancy Brown.
Fuck! As soon as he started talking, I'm like, oh my god, it's Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Listen to that guy.
The Kurgan.
Holy shit.
And then also, what's his name? oh my goodness, Mark Boone Jr. He was he's Sons of Anarchy. He's a character actor. You've seen him in a million things.
Oh yeah.
He was also in that
He's at
episode
that
too. He's
port.
the guy that set everybody up. As soon as I saw him,
Yeah.
I was like, that's awesome.
He's been in a ton of stuff. Like just
Lot
like
of things.
randomly shows up in a lot of character work. I remember I recently saw him in I rewatched 30 Days of Night late last year, and he's randomly in that. So it's genre fair. And he was also in Halloween, wasn't he? In Rob Zombie's, wasn't he one of the guys that gets killed at the strip club, like Michael Myers kills him in H2 or Halloween 2?
So. I don't know.
I thought he was, or Out on the Road. Sorry, not in the strip club. It's Out on the Road. I feel like he's a victim of Michael Myers.
He might be. He was in Vampires, John Carpenter's Vampires.
Oh my god!
I think he
John
gets split in
Carpenter's-
half.
Oh my god, that movie.
Oh. But yeah, there were a lot of really good. There's a lot of good casting in this. I don't know. Man.
Clancy Brown. Holy shit!
Yeah, buddy.
That was something else.
Crushed by a door.
Yeah.
So unceremoniously, and he was just such a big asshole. He's just it's perfect.
Yeah.
Clancy Brown. I was so happy.
That was great.
Yeah, I just like seeing him and stuff.
Great.
Yeah, I don't think I've got much else here. Let me look at my notes, but I think we pretty much covered everything in one form or another.
Yeah, we're not gonna agree on this.
No, we'll never agree.
But you know, I think that the world has. I think Star Wars fans have a new property that they love, and I think this is also bringing in new fans.
Yes,
too.
Yeah.
I think this show is doing a really good job of that. So I guess it's just not for me.
I will give a little bit of credit to your opinion in that I don't want to see season 2 again in season 3. I think, like I said, I mean, obviously season 2 they relied a little bit more heavily on the previous material. I really want them to go out there on season 3. I think season 1 was the episodic kind of thing where you're establishing the characters and whatnot. Season 2 had to be questy. Like, you know, there was more of a central story or plot to the entire season. And it was focused around this Jedi character. Now that the Jedi character is out of there, now I'm curious to see what they want to do. Because I do agree with you. Like, obviously, you know, we joke and go back and forth. And I believe in what I'm saying, and I was really as jazzed as I was. But at the same time, I don't want to see the same thing over and over and over again. It's nice to see it occasionally. Like, that's Force Awakens. You and I disagree on that as well a little bit. But I was a little bit more happy with that because it was nice to see that again. But the thing is, I don't want that again and again. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like,
yeah,
give me something a little bit different, or, you know, be your own Star Wars film. And I felt like the first season did that. I felt like the second season did that too. But there was it's treading into that territory, and I don't want it to go too deep into there. I feel like bringing in Luke Skywalker the way they did, like gangbusters, was perfect for what it needed to be, but don't do that again.
Yeah.
You know, if they bring back Luke, it's got to be for a really good reason. Don't rely on that as a plot device or a way to get out of situations all the time. Do it once, don't do it again. And they did it well, in my opinion. I know, again, we won't disagree on that, we won't agree on that, but
Yeah. We're not.
No.
But a thought occurred to me, and it's flown out of my head now, and I can't remember what it was.
It's probably something really negative and nitpicky. Think nitpicky.
Right. I guess two things. One was I actually in general I'm really disliking that Star Wars is forcing these old characters in general, like old characters, like coming back with this CGI de-aging stuff. I absolutely hate it.
I agree.
I hate it in every way. Tarkin, it was an abomination. It was so bad, and you know, Peter Cushing is turning over in his fucking grave. It was awful. And this is also like, so I really disliked it, and I hate that pattern. Was it Rogue One also had the Leia, I guess, thing right at the end?
That one is the only one I felt was okay. in that.
Yeah, because it was like for like 2 seconds. Like
Yeah.
it was kind of like just like in a smile and like whatever. But even then, like I think from like personally speaking, I don't want any of it. Like I don't want any of that at all.
I'd rather them recast. Find somebody that looks like
Yeah.
her and go with that. Don't go with this digital de-aging stuff because it's
Yeah, I
not.
hate
It's
it.
not there. It's not there. It looks gross. I
dislike it, and like the deep fake stuff is getting so good that we're gonna be able to start putting faces on people, and it's gonna become more prevalent, and it's gonna happen in movies. But what's happening is that we get to. I think one of the things I like about films is that they are capsules of their time. When they're made, and you don't do it again, right? Like you don't take another shot at it with those actors because those actors no longer look the way they did, or they are, the movie is 50 years old and the actor has passed on, but that's a time capsule thing. Like to revisit that, I always feel like there's something so perverse about it. Whether the current actor is alive or dead, like I find there's something just really perverse about the whole thing, and it kind of destroys the uniqueness of what that thing was.
yes.
Like, so I'm always kind of against that in general, and that was the one point. And the other point I wanted to make was the whole format and the push to format for like television shows. Now, I haven't really kept up with the Disney release, but they like the press release, the big press release they did, I guess, a month or two ago, where they announced just like a fucking gaggle of shows. It was just tons and tons of, and they're all TV shows. I prefer the film format to television, especially multi-season television. I think like miniseries work really well, but television series, like multiple seasons of the same show, it's a lot of time, and I think it makes it hard to revisit as a whole. Like if you were going to revisit it or watch it again, and it's not my preferred way to, and that's me personally. I think a lot of people don't feel this way because I think a lot of people don't rewatch shows. I think a lot of people nowadays don't rewatch. And this is just me, like, guessing here, but I think a lot of people don't rewatch anything.
Yeah.
To be honest, like something
Possibly.
that they haven't seen, stuff that they've seen before, they don't really rewatch it. It's always, when it comes to TV, they're always watching something new,
Right.
because it's all so accessible and coming out at a constant rate. Like, why spend time watching something you'd already seen? I guess it's just a general comment that, with all of like there are a bunch of Star Wars television shows, I guess, that they announced as well. And I'm like, I'm not going to watch any of it. I mean, partly because I'm a little Star Wars'd out, like we already talked about, but also the format is just too much. It's just too much, and I would never even try to cover it all. And I think that hurts. I mean, I'm probably in the minority, but I like the film format because the film format is a one and done, 2.5 hour, let's say, go, and I can watch that, consume that.
Yeah.
Whereas the television shows are 20 hours, 20-hour commitment or a 15-hour commitment, and it's just too much, and it just allows them to. Anyway, I can go on there for a long time. That format is not my.
The thing is, I think that I understand it's not your format. I think Disney will be okay without you.
Yeah, I think so.
Because the thing is,
I don't know.
It might not be your preferred format. It's a format that other people can get behind. I mean, people love watching TV. I've never really been a huge TV guy. I like watching things at my leisure. And I mean, TV shows like on Disney Plus or Netflix are great for me because I can watch them at my leisure. It's not something I usually tune in on. Mando, I tuned in on Fridays or Saturdays because I knew it was coming out and I was excited to watch it. But that aside, it's not so much about that. It's the fact that they can make these shows for probably close to the budget of a full-length feature film. Probably a little more expensive, but the thing is you can stretch these because they don't do the binge thing that Netflix does typically, where they give you all the episodes right out the gate. I mean, they do that with most of their shows, not all, but Disney seems to be giving you that one episode a week drip. And if they're doing that, they're keeping you on the hook for probably 2 straight months. And then they got another Star Wars show coming out after that. And if they're lining up these shows, they've got you by the nuts for multiple seasons of multiple shows for multiple months of your monthly fee. So it's
For sure.
From a business
Oh,
standpoint,
for sure.
brilliant.
I
I get you recognize it. I just wanted to make that clear that it's
yeah.
it's
I
purely a
totally-
business decision from their end. But the thing is, they're still making quality stuff. It's not like their TV shows feel cheap or rushed or not well thought out. They seem like they're telling a good story, but obviously the marketing machine's underway with them. It's Disney. They're never not going to have that going on. So
Oh, for sure. Oh, I completely agree with you. Like I said, it's more of a personal. This is definitely a personal preference. Where,
Sure.
I mean, if I'm if I'm deciding what to watch next, I'm not gonna watch a new Star Wars show that has 2 seasons because I'm like, I don't really want to sit here and watch an episodic 15, 20-hour commitment I need to make to get this whole story. And a lot of the times, it's not going to be the whole story. That irritates me too.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than like a show that doesn't have an ending, and I hate not. I don't like not having endings.
yeah.
And that bothers me too. So that's what's predicated on a multi-season show is that things continue, right? It always continues until it doesn't, and it's like
Right.
Anyway, old man Kotru. I don't want your TV shows. Give me my movies. My 2.5-hour movies.
You are old.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to say on this, man. I think
No.
I think this is
Let's clean it up.
yeah, I think that's as good as we could do.
Cool. All right.
I'm sorry
Well,
that you
it's
guys
good
had
to
to
be
listen
back.
to Atul's stupid opinion, but thank you for listening. Not every time we do a podcast are one of us going to be even close to right. But fortunately, I'm here for you to represent the people against Vader chestplate tyrant Kotru.
For that small cabal who feels the same way I do, we'll have a meeting in my basement
It's
later
going to
this
be.
week.
It's just going to be
Me.
you.
It's just gonna be me.
You and yeah, that's it, man.
I'll bake cookies.
I'd wonder how many people share your opinion, aside from like the digital Skywalker look. But I think a lot of people felt that, but more just your grumpy demeanor. You're a miserable.
Yeah,
bitch.
it's possible that other people like I haven't looked at any opinions about Mandalorian other than like talking with other people and having them tell me how wrong I am. I haven't actually like read anything or looked up like what people think. I haven't read a review or anything. I have no idea what the sentiment out. But I mean, I think it's obvious that it's overwhelmingly positive. But
Yeah,
I don't
it
know
seems
if
to
there's
be.
a small group of people that's cranky like I am.
I don't know, man. Yeah, I think you're on an island all on your own, and
So
I'm not going to
more
come
cookies
visit.
for me. More cookies for me.
Cookies. All right, buddy. Let's call it.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening. Thank you. I don't know what I was going to say. It's been a long episode. It's good to be back though.
Hell yeah, this has been fun. I'm glad that
be back.
that we're back with live mics and doing our thing.
Yeah, man. All right. Thank you for listening, everyone. Till next time. This has been Atul.
This is Justin. Thank you very much, and till the next one.
See you
Hooray!
guys.
See ya. Bye.